All right. Welcome to our edition of the Mexican Soccer Show. I'm Wiso Vasquez. Behind me, a nightclub, like Amy said. Hopefully I can DJ it up over here. This is an hour-long podcast dedicated to all things Mexican football. If you're joining us for the very first time, say hello on whatever various streaming platform you're on. I think it's just I think it's either YouTube or on the Mexican Soccer Show, which is a Twitter. Is this still called Periscope? I don't know if it's going away. They keep thinking it is, but it's still going on. So we don't know. Anyway, we'll start. Mr. Cesar Hernandez join us today. We're back with the live Cesar and Carlos Justis, of course, who's got his own Carlos Justis TV. Just FYI, not radio. Carlos Justis TV.
For the time being, you can still find me on TV. So
Carlos Justis TV. And Cesar Football, not baseball. Cesar Football at Cesar.
Yeah,
Football.
Not baseball. because I've talked about it beforehand, but sometimes people online get me confused with the baseball player who shares my name, and sometimes they'll send me messages and be like, "Hey, great game, man." I'm like, "Yeah, for sure, whatever, man. Just do what I can."
No, you're not the only Cesar Hernandez in the world. Oldie. Carlos isn't the only Carlos Justis in the world.
I mean, when I get confused with my dad. So I really appreciate that.
I could say I'm the only Wiso Vasquez. There is a Wiso out there. I'm not gonna lie. He's Puerto Rican. He's got Wiso on his Facebook, and it's kind of nice. Anyway, all right. For joining us, say hi on the chat. We have a lot to cover today, from the Liguilla craziness of the games that we saw over the weekend. But first, we're going to talk all about the national team. Lots of news coming up. Get ready, because the stint of over 25 games this year, I think, for the national team, and then another 3 that were just added for the Trio Olímpico. It's going to be a lot, and it all starts in about 2 weeks. Saying hi already to who's on the chat. Saying hi to Alex De La Rosa joining us, and Luis G saying the kit drip was I got the everybody always talking about this jersey, and the 98 jersey that everyone loves and everyone compares to anytime Adidas comes out with anything. They'll just say it's not like the 98 jersey, but that's pretty cool. So what are we wearing today, boys? What do you guys have?
I have the brand new Oakland Roots jersey.
That's great, man. Looks great.
The Oakland Roots they actually debuted with this one on the USL on the loss to the Phoenix Rising last week, and then I think they're playing this Sunday if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, expect some content out of it, because the whole story of the Roots is kind of cool.
Nice. What about Cesar?
I have my pickup soccer league, which I haven't played in it's not even like a league. It's just a pickup group. I haven't played with them in over a year, but they're called Bridge Barcata. I'm wearing the Bridge Barcata jersey. It's pretty cool.
There you go.
They don't play professionally, but we have had some professional players drop by playing with Bridge Barcata, so that's always been kind of fun.
Was Donovan? No,
It's Christina Birkenrode from Rayadas.
Yeah, Christina.
Landon
awesome.
Donovan. We've had some people over from 1904, and some of them are involved with some stuff in France. So yeah, no, it's good times. Well, it was good times, and hopefully, I got my second dose last Monday. So hopefully, within a few weeks, I'll be joining them again.
There it is. All right, cool. Let's just start. We have lots and lots to cover, and starting with the national team. And like I said, there's going to be a lot of games, but everybody's been talking about this. All of a sudden, on a random Friday, Cesar and I were talking about a lineup drop, which I don't remember a lineup ever dropping on a Friday from the national team, which when that happens, there's either a lot to talk about, they don't want to deal with it because it's Friday, or there's some kind of, some players that are missing. But here it is for everybody to see, block out our faces. And the big talking point is Mr. Chicharito not being there. Now, mind you, this is the games. These are the friendlies that's going to happen, right? And then the Nations League, which the very important tournament that was just added now on the calendar. So lots and lots of people kind of talking about why there are a few players that are missing. But the big talking point, Mr. Chicharito not being there, having already 7 goals in 4 games, is I guess what everyone was kind of freaking out about. I'm not necessarily that worried, but let's hear you, Carlos. How would you like this list? And then your thoughts on why Mr. CH14 is not there, since he's scoring so many goals.
I mean, I think the list is consistent with what Tata Martino has been calling. There's not a lot of surprises. I mean, a couple of names here and there that were added, mainly from the roster from the Olympics that were missing there. Now they're here. But besides that, I mean, I feel like it's weird because a lot of people always want the players are in their best form, to say it in a certain way, or like, oh, who are playing the best. But most of the time when you're creating a team, even if you have those like up and downs, but the level stays kind of similar, by you doing that, you're actually breaking up the chemistry. And it sounds weird and it's silly to think about it, but you have a group that you work with. It will be like us having to do, we do this often, and all of a sudden like we start plugging other people from other places, and they don't have the same relationship if they never seen each other before. When you've seen each other before and it's just, a name for a name, like I'm not here sometimes, you have some of the people here, like it makes sense. But if because I'm an invitee, but you're the main core of Mexican Soccer Show, and that's how you should think about the national team. You have to have your core players that are the part of the group that needs to work with. Yes, there'll be players that will come in and out because they don't have, they're not at a top form, and that's always going to happen. And with Javier, I mean, I've heard this story already a lot about that indiscipline that happened a year and a half ago, and that's mainly the reason why he's out. It has nothing to do with the form. It has nothing to do with him being the leading scorer in national team history. But if it's really about that, then it is what it is, and he's not gonna get called.
Yeah, and building off of what Carl said there too, it's just like, I think running a national team would be a lot easier if you literally just chose the most talented players and boom, that's it. That's it. There's something much more significant than that, and obviously you can't just throw Chicharito back into the mix and assume everything is going to be fine. And also I do think, as for what he's doing on the field, I've been impressed, but I do wonder if it's just like slightly too early. I'm not saying it's way too early, but it's just slightly too worried, and I'm not worried about him missing out on 2 friendlies and 2 Nations League matches. What I'd be more worried about is if he continues on this form and if he were then left out of the Gold Cup. I think that's when we can really start to ask questions, start to wonder, okay, like what's happening behind the scenes? Is there that indiscipline thing? Is there something regarding the whole rumor of him not liking where some of the money was going out of sponsorships or whatever that was? All those rumors were back in the day. But I think if he continues to score, if he continues to find the back of the net, and if he still isn't called up to the Gold Cup, I think that's when we can really start to question what's happening. And also, you're potentially asking him and Efrain, because Efrain Alvarez was also left out of the roster. But you're asking him to leave the Galaxy when I think they both seem to be finally falling through with their expectations. And I think you kind of let them stay for a little bit longer. I think you continue to let Chicharito find his for the Galaxy, and you continue to let Efrain get minutes, because, I mean, in the last game with the Galaxy, I was pretty impressed by him. I thought he was having a very, very good game. So I think you just let him stay there with the club for a little bit longer, and then we'll see what it looks like over the summer.
I have a simple solution for all this Chicharito drama, and when I looked at it, and I wasn't really that worried. One, these lists have to come, almost weeks in advance too. Getting the okay, getting everything coming in. Chicharito, you take 3 weeks ago, we barely started scoring. You know what I mean? So was anyone thinking Chicharito was going to be in any list at all? The way that he was coming in, not at all. When that gets turned in, then Chicharito starts scoring the first week. Then he got a hat trick the second week. Then 2 more goals. He's already at 5 goals in 3 weeks. Like, I really don't think. I think it's also has to do with timing that it wasn't necessarily on Tata's radar when lists have to be turned in, almost a month before the game start. And then therefore, Chicharito all of a sudden has 7 goals in 3 weeks. Like, I honestly think that that's either it. There's someone's asking, can you explain the indiscipline? Carlos, what? I mean, I don't know if it's been like a year, but what indiscipline was it from a while back?
Yeah, I don't know if you guys remember that famous party in New York after the friendly.
Yeah, the brunch.
Well, in that trip, the rumor is, because again, I haven't confirmed this. I heard this from several colleagues. This is not my information. Javier actually flew somebody in, a woman. He flew somebody in from whatever she was. Flew her in. Put her in the same hotel as the national team.
Yeah, I remember that.
And made somebody from the national team, somebody who worked for the national team, go pick her up and bring her over. when Tata Martino finds out, he actually not only puts Javier out of the lineup and out of the call-ups, but they actually fire that person. That person no longer works with the national team. And that's one of the main rumors of why Javier hasn't been able to come back. And it's also, he's breaking protocol, he's breaking team protocol, and then obviously, that cost somebody their job. So that's part of that rumor. Again, I don't have that,
El chisme aquí en el 3MZ. El 3MZ trademark short story. He got the person charged in logistic fired. But he was saying, Chicharito was saying that he wanted to come back to the national team, and he's been saying that he'll play and he'll never go back to it. If there was something there, he was already coming. He should already know. So I don't know.
What was interesting though was over the weekend. I believe it was Katia Casorena who asked him a question after the Galaxy win and the post-game press conference. She was asking about, his goal-scoring form and being left out of, an El-Tri call-up. And I mean, he made it quite obvious, saying that, yes, it's an honor for him to, wear El-Tri's jerseys and he'd be excited to get a call-up. But if he's not getting the call-up, that's fine because he's focused with the Galaxy. And he seems to be doing quite well with them this year. If you've read some of the articles about him really trying to refine his form from late last year, like you can see he's definitely a much more motivated person. And I think a lot of that he has to find through the Galaxy first and then later on, potentially with El-Tri. So I think either way, he seems to be pretty happy with his situation over in the Galaxy, and things seem to be working out quite well for him.
Chicharito's scoring, and he's not called for those, for the summer that we're about to have, then that's where I'd be a little bit worried. I'm like, okay, if that's it, then just come out and say it. Because of the discipline, I don't want somebody in my team. All right, cool, that's it. It's always this thing we're trying to figure out why these players aren't called, or I get, you remember the Carlos Vela saying that he doesn't want to be a part of the team. Okay, that's different, right? But when you're not calling teams that are on, and we'll see, and that's where here comes, the problems, if the PR problems that we have. But anyways, another person that is on the roster that everyone's just kind of talking about is Raul Jimenez, right? Yeah. And Raul Jimenez being on, I was actually really surprised that he would completely be on, because from what I know, from what I'm reading and kind of hearing, there's still some very important tests that are going to come out that are not necessarily saying yes, he's going to be ready to go. He can't head the ball. There is no way Raul would be playing in any of these games. Like 100%, that's zero chance. I think he's going for the same reason that he went last time, to continue to be with the team, have, be a part of it, be a part of the process, be a part of the, like I said before, there's meetings that come out, there's tactics, there's, when he's ready to come back, he hasn't missed out on the national team. And I think this roster is not your normal 23, it's like 30, right? It's
31. Yeah. And I think, it's just like what you said there and what Carlos has said, that just like, it's just about getting this group together, still kind of having that dynamic. And we'll see with Jimenez. I mean, that according to, I think Wolves said, I think it was Nuno Espirito Santo said that the test is supposed to come out, I think tomorrow, actually, if I remember correctly. That'll kind of shed some light on how fit he is. But regardless, I think if, we're talking about, Jimenez, we still have to see if he'll be fit for these upcoming games. We're talking about Chicharito missing out. But regardless of that, I think Mexico could still, win the Nations League tournament without either of those two. I think with Pulido and Henry Martin, I think, yes, those aren't the number one options you would immediately think of when you think of the national team. But when you're considering the opposition, the CONCACAF opposition, I think the two of them could get the job done. So I'm not too worried about Mexico up top in the next, next few weeks, before the Gold Cup. But if either of them then suffers an injury, if Martin has an injury, if Pulido has an injury, then that's when I think you start freaking out. But I think Mexico will be fine with the two of them.
Okay, we're focusing on Pulido and Henry Martin to take us in. I'm not saying I'm worried, but I'm just kind of like,
Pulido's scoring right now. Henry Martin.
Okay, it's Pulido. And then what did Henry Martin do? Like, that's what I'm saying. I know, I get it, right? Okay, we shouldn't be freaking out, but it's not like that's the position that we have plenty of.
I actually think you don't, but
exactly.
it's you have to tackle it like that, because you can't count with having Raul. Another thing that I feel is the reason why Jimenez is on this list is also that, remember that to play in the Premier League, you need to have a certain amount of call-ups with the national team.
Mm-hmm.
So in kind of like for him to actually still be eligible and make sure that, nothing happens with contracts and things like that, then you keep calling him, because a very specific situation is not really, he losing, and he can practice. He probably won't, go all out and in certain drills and things like that, but he can actually practice with the team. So that's another way of, during the summer, when it's supposed to be a break with the team, he's going to be able to have some reps with people that he knows, and they need to monitor him anyway. So on that sense, I think that will help out too.
And I've had this conversation with Amy just kind of outside, where I feel like it was such a serious injury, and I'm not saying that there wasn't. Thank God everything's okay and he's with his family. But as a fan, and it's kind of hard to be like, don't not be selfish about it, but I'm kind of getting worried the fact that he is, it's something not only serious, but we haven't heard anything about it, right? We're waiting for another test. It's almost been 6 months, and at what point do they go, okay, yeah, what if this test he's not ready?
No, I am not worried, because if you remember the specific cases of Peter Cech and Christian Kibu, and they both came back and they played for years after. Peter Cech was out for a year and a half, I think, or a year and 2 months, something like that. Yeah. And Christian Kibu was out also for like 10 months, 11 months before he came back with a helmet. And they came back and they played for another like 5-6 years.
Hey, by the way, we have this much to recover, like stories. It's really bad. It'd be a year. It could be whatever. When they already had the test and they already have the recovery. And I think that's what I'm saying. Because we haven't gotten hey, this is what he has, and it's going to take this long for him to come back. Which, okay, you break a knee, you're going to be gone for 12 months. You already know if you recover well. And the only reason why I'm saying that is because it's been 6 months and there's still tests to be, then there's a recovery to him coming back.
I think that's what tomorrow's gonna be a big day, though. I think that'll, because I think there are a lot of unknowns. I think we're not doctors here. We don't we don't really know the extent of these injuries. But I think if tomorrow is going to shed some serious light on how big of a deal this is or isn't, hopefully, then we'll have some more answers. So I think right now it's just continuing to play the waiting game and just keeping your fingers crossed that maybe he will be ready by this summer. I'm not saying getting minutes up against like the U.S. against a potential final for the Nations League, but maybe by this summer, hopefully he'll be getting some minutes. Yeah, well, I mean, I think it'd be even too soon almost by the summer. Like, I honestly don't think Raul will play at all until maybe fall. We get lucky. Or even more.
I don't expect him with the national team. If everything goes well as it's supposed to be, I expect him coming back with the Premier League. He'll do the whole process with it, and then in August, September, when the league starts, he'll start getting minutes, and then eventually, come back to the roster.
I think that's the best case scenario. Qualifiers in November, September, October, November, maybe, and then that's if everything goes okay. Because summer is right around the corner, and we'll see how. Everybody else saying do these kind of videos every week. We're trying. There's busy stuff. There's Carlos. When do you go to Japan?
I leave on July the 17th.
All right.
And I'll be back on August 8th.
And you're taking all of us, right? Where you can fit all of us. You can fit all of us in your luggage. You'll figure it out. We're short people. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. I mean, it's gonna be crazy. This is actually gonna be my third Olympics. I did London, I did Rio, and then this will be my third Olympics. And awesome. I'm looking forward to it in the sense of work wise. I also looked up because the first time Mexico is actually gonna be in this, like the soccer part is actually going to be in the city where I'm at, even though I was lucky enough to be in the gold medal in Rio. That to me, it's one of the craziest games I've ever been to. But it's still going to be very, I think about it because a lot of people joke usually like, oh, you should come. And it's like, it's going to be, it's going to be very, very tight. Like it's going to be a point where I'm going to be going from the venue, whatever I'm doing, go back to the hotel. And that's going to be for like 2-3 weeks. So, I'll keep you posted. But
Amy's saying humble brag by Carlos in the way he is. No, just as long as you fit us in 7 p.m. Pacific time for the Mexican Soccer Show to give us the updates and
yeah, what time would that even be out? Like I have no idea. Like,
hey, Carlos, I measured today. Noon in the Pacific Coast is 4 a.m. in Tokyo.
Now I'm thinking we should do
Noon.
Mexican soccer show at noon.
Yeah, just
and just text Carlos, be like, "Hey
if
man,
you have something planned
man.
at 4 a.m. Over there.
I mean, I don't know when my days are going to start, but if it's maybe if it's like at 2 p.m. and it's 6 in the morning for me, I'm probably gonna be getting up anyway. Like just that's the nature of the beast.
I think we did a Mexican soccer show when I was in Russia, and it was like 5 in the morning. I think you were hosting it, Tessa. I was so tired.
Ever thinking like Lisa shouldn't be on this? You're just like struggling. You're just like
it was a Germany win, and I remember that it was. And I actually flew to Paris, and it was the day before. And I'm just like, oh my gosh! I think it was like 3 in the morning. I gotta get on. But yeah, commitment. All right. Amy said, "Bring back ramen, please."
Okay.
Yeah,
that's fair.
All right. Continuing with now. Schedule-wise for the Mexican national team, if you don't know, Mexico plays Iceland on the 29th. It got changed. It was the 30th on Saturday, the 29th. Then 4 days later in Denver, the semifinal, Mexico versus Costa Rica. Then 4 days later, which is hopefully the final, first time the powerful U.S. team with Pulisic and all the Europeans will finally face the little minnows of CONCACAF Mexico and see how they do, because it's been played out that this team's going to be killing. I think it should be an interesting game there in Denver. And then right after that, there's a friendly on the 12th in Atlanta against Honduras, right? And I think that's it, right? No. Then Nashville. Yeah, Nashville on the 30th. And that's against Panama. So those are the some games that they have. And then I think there's going to be an early July game. So, so there's lots of friendlies coming up, and then you go right into what's the Gold Cup that starts the middle of teens of July. Carlos flies to Japan for the Olympics. Then in the middle of Gold Cup, the Olympics start. Then hopefully we keep going. So, the Olympics. If you're in Texas, you're lucked out because the first 3 matches are in Dallas, and then after that, I think it goes Phoenix, and then Dallas again. Dallas again, and then the semifinal. Yeah, the semifinal. I think it's in the Cotton Bowl, and the final is in Las Vegas. So
yeah, because someone in the YouTube chat said, "Are you guys planning on going to any of the games this summer?" I think for me, hopefully, assuming Mexico qualifies for the quarterfinal, hopefully we'll be hanging out with Weiss over there in Phoenix, and then maybe the final over in Las Vegas. But
if you want to host that, just let us know. Especially if you're in the Dallas and in the Houston and all those areas. We'll highest bidder Cessa will come and talk soccer, and well, I'm sure Kim will be fine with that.
I'll help. That'll be the highest bidder that could help with rent over here. I'm a great cook. It'll be fantastic. We'll have a great time. I'll bring my guitar.
There you go. Hellos keeps asking these questions, and his name's Hello. Does Mexico really stand a chance against these U.S. Eurostars full of bench riders and second division players? Apparently so.
And also, there's no guarantee that Mexico is going to qualify for the Nations League final. There's no guarantee.
Oh my God! It's national team's going to qualify. One of the worst Costa Ricas I've ever seen.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
There's no guarantee the U.S. is going to qualify. They got to play Honduras.
There are no guarantees that either. You know what? Maybe Mexico will be facing the U.S. in the
third place match.
I'm not saying it's going to happen. But weirder things have happened.
If anybody's going to the matches, go to PVA, VSArmy.com. Shame plug. You can buy tickets there already for the most of the matches that are there, except for I think the final and third place match. And there's some discounts there too. So my friends at VS Army already have tickets to go in La Porra de Mexico. All right, let's talk really quick. Mexicans abroad. Big news. Let's see what's some big news. Oh yeah, Mr. Diego Lainez and Andrés Guardado getting a win, and one more win, they stay in the Europa League. So it'd be good to see Lainez in the Europa League next year. Also Guardado. That Betis team is like my new favorite team, not only because I'm following Diego Lainez and Guardado, but it is exciting to see them. I think they've only lost like one game. Like in the last 2 months. After Diego Lainez started playing, they've only lost one game. So I'm just gonna throw it out there. He's not. Everyone's expecting him to score these goals, but he's doing what he needs to do, playing. And it's an exciting team to see if they go into the Europa League. Hector Herrera has it finally, and I haven't really paid attention.
It's close.
It's close, right?
it's close. It's very, very close. He could potentially win that La Liga title with Atleti, which obviously, I mean, yes, I mean, Ache is like no longer a guaranteed start. I mean, it looked like he was a guaranteed starter for a while. Then he came back, and he kind of looks like he's more of a bench player. But still, he has a presence on this team. He makes an impact on this team, and he could potentially win a Liga title. So it's something not to overlook. And also, something related to that too. But Nestor Araujo, him and Celta Vigo, they defeated Barcelona 2-1 in an away win too, which was incredible. Shout out to them. And also Chacho Codet, their manager over in Celta Vigo, who just a few years back, he was coaching about 30 miles, 25 miles south of me over here with Xolos over in Liga MX. So quite impressive to see not only a former Liga MX manager do that, but also someone like Araujo getting the win over Barcelona.
If VRL win the Europa League, would Celta take the UEFA Conference League spot?
I don't know. That's a good question.
I need to go. I need to check how many teams from Spain can make it into Europe, because I know for a fact in England that will be the case. And I think that's the case. If Villarreal ends up winning the Europa League, I think that's a Champions League spot, isn't it? No, it's another Europa League spot.
That's a good question, though.
Good question. We'll make sure our
Also,
production team answers it.
Really quickly, we could have another Mexican playing in the Champions League next season. So over in Belgium, Arteaga's Genk, they won another game, and we'll have to wait on other matches. It looks likely that his team's going to clinch a spot in second in the Belgian league, and that means that they'll be in the qualifying stage for the Champions League next season, which it is in the Champions League group stage. It would be like 1 or 2 stages away, but that's pretty big. I mean, that's very, very exciting. And that's not necessarily when we talk about the Mexicans abroad, you don't necessarily think about Arteaga really quickly. You don't think about someone playing somewhere in Belgium, but that's a decent opportunity. And who knows, maybe, later on this year, we could be talking about Arteaga getting Champions League minutes. So yeah, okay, keep an eye on that too.
Let's go. Did Chucky also take away Juventus's champion spot over the weekend from Napoli winning? I think that I think I was reading something like that Barcelona lost because of Nestor Araujo. Chucky took Juventus win for.
Is that what I don't remember? I'll have to look.
It's just the USA. The rivalry were there. All right. Big weekend in for some Euro leagues. Yes, yeah, it's coming about to be an exciting week, guys. So Mexican Bronze keep going. And yeah, I mean that's that. Let's dive into Liga MX.
Yeah.
The powerful, entertaining League of the Americas. If I have to act over the weekend, because I mean, when you look at some teams in the biggest game, I'm sure there's some Americanistas here who, for some reason, feel like they at least have their head up high that they went out. But I'm still thinking you shouldn't have been in that situation anyway.
You're talking about Amy, right?
Oh, is that? No, she's not on to come in. I mean, let me get to the comments and we come in. But let's chat Liga MX, the craziness that happened over the Liguilla. A great set of games. The wild cards, as Americans like to call it, and then now this first elimination games where I thought it was all 4 games are great. But let's talk the first one. And America trying to do what needed to do Cesar, Carlos. For some reason, everyone thought that we were going to score goals. If we look at all our predictions, we're like, it's going to be. I really think it's going to be a close game for it, but I didn't think it was going to be this close. But it was an amazing game.
No, go ahead, Carlos. I've been blabbering for a while about the Belgian soccer sound.
I actually feel like it was way too a lot more goals than I expected. I mean, the results not being it's a 2-goal difference, and they end up tying on the aggregate, and Pachuca makes it on away goals, which is crazy. But I think America did what they needed to do too late. But it's a way of seeing it, because at the end of the day, you're going out in away goals, and they did score as many goals as they needed. They just, I think that penalty from Bruno Valdez is really what, puts a dagger down on America. But I think overall it was a good tournament. One thing that I was really confused yesterday is somebody was telling me because America choked. And I was like, I think that's kind of disrespectful towards Pachuca. We know in Liga MX that once the Liguilla starts, it doesn't matter whether you had 25 points, 2 points, whatever. At that point, you become a contender because you only need to. And after the game they had against Chivas and the game they had previously to get into Liguilla, is like, okay, all of a sudden these guys are actually playing. Like all that talk we had at the beginning of the season when they were horrible and they were gonna get out rid of Pesolano and this thing's not gonna work out. All of a sudden, it started, erasing little by little. And I always talk, and I think I one day with Cesar, I said momentum like 60 million times on one of the episodes on the previous. But that's what it is. Like right now, Pachuca comes into the Liguilla with momentum, and they beat Chivas, which wasn't doing great, but they obliterated them, and it just shows where they are. Then they take a big win against America at home. And to me, that's a little bit more on Solari. It's a part of Solari's tactics and execution. It was just a mistake and it happens, but you gave a game away. But also thinking that you had the second leg. Because that's another thing of like why if Solari had known that game was do or die, he would have, probably presented it differently. But no, he knew it was 2 legs. So he put a certain lineup, a certain weight of tactics, and it didn't work out. Pachuca comes and obliterates them on the first leg, and then he tried to make the best of it on the second one, and he just gave us a really entertaining game, which is what I really appreciate.
Yeah, and I mentioned it on Twitter, and I think it's an unpopular take to give credit to both sides, but I'm going to give credit to both sides. I mean, credit to Pachuca for, one of the themes of the last few weeks is that you can't take them lightly. I mean, that's just now something that's very, very like obvious, is that you can't take them lightly at all in this playoff run right now. And America, I mean, if you looked at this game just by itself, if you looked at it outside of what's happened so far in the playoffs, I mean, that was a very good game from them. That was an incredibly entertaining game from them, and I think that regardless of what happened in this series, regardless of the fact that they went out through to not having as many away goals as Pachuca, I mean, you have to give them credit for the season that they've had so far under Solari, and it seems like the project is really, really promising for them. I know there are a lot of high expectations with America, and in America, it's you either win the title or it's a failure. And I know a lot of fans are thinking like, oh, it's a fracaso, like that you can't be doing this. But I don't know.
It could be all of them. It could be a fracaso, but it was a fracaso. America, with the team that it has, with the roster that it has, how well it was doing during this whole season, did not make it to the semifinals. But it was a very entertaining game, and I think an Americanista I follow, her name is America. She said like you wish your teams had huevos like mine, and it really America played. It was that they needed to get stuff done, and they went out there and they tried as much as they can, and they scored those goals, and it was an entertaining. I'm not a fan of either team, but I kind of want America. I'm like, you know what, you deserve it for going out, but again, Pachuca did what they needed to do and scored more goals, and I think that's the Liguilla we want. That's the games that we want when you're taking it off, because that's going to make the football better. Everyone's going to be watching. And I'm excited to see what America will do with Solari. I have a friend that doesn't follow Mexican League, and he was around my house last night. And we watched some games, and he was like, Solari's in Mexico? And he's just like, what? He doesn't watch Liga MX, and we were watching. He's from Costa Rica. Huge Costa Rica fan, and that's why I was watching the Clásico late at night with him, because he was watching some, he said, hey, can I watch, you want to watch the Costa Rican Clásico? I'm like, yeah, watch some Liga MX with me. And we're both going, and we had an amazing 6 hours of soccer. And he was telling me, he's like, I don't even understand why Solari's in Mexico. Like, it's a huge deal. And those are the type of coaches somebody was saying right now, more managers, right? Like Pesolano, Solari, and kind of means saying Aguirre and Bucetich are washed, but, we'll do that. All right, just saying the future looks bright. Again, it's fracaso, but you can be like, all right, next year, we'll see what happens after Cruz Azul doesn't take the title this year. So
and it's also, I think also if we're looking at Aguirre, if we're looking at Solari, and I know obviously in Liga MX things can change quite quickly with rosters, and someone from, I think it was from TUDN tweeted out that maybe Ochoa is going to be looking over at some options in MLS, and maybe he will be going over there, but nonetheless, I'm interested to see how some of these teams look that have a real preseason. I'm not just saying like a coach shows up in the winter, boom, 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 tries to figure things out, early in 2021. I want to see how America looks like after full preseason during the summer. I want to see how Monterrey, look like after a full preseason over the summer. So I'm interested by some of these projects.
Yeah,
I still feel like you're gonna see a lot of them. If you see them on this game compared to the rest of the season, and to me that the only problem is like why we can't see that more often. And
Right,
I get it.
right.
You're always looking forward to how it's going to be in the Liguilla, and you have to be ready for Liguilla and all this. But if they're capable of doing this, like having these games, like I just ask why in week 5, week 7 we don't see that. And then we'll see what happens with these specific two teams. But the same thing could happen to them. They could have a really awesome season. They could have a really entertaining Liguilla and find a team that for whatever reason that night has the best night of their life and start losing 4-2. And then what are you gonna say? Oh, it was a failure. They tied 7-7 with Pachuca and got away on the away goals. They're a failure. Like, to me, that's the only part where I understand sports, right? I understand the criticism as a fan, but it's like they literally tied 5-5. Like,
yeah. I mean, that's sports, right? The good thing is that you can just wait 2 months and the season starts. It's not like a World Cup where you're waiting 4 years. And I mean, that's why the beauty of the playoffs are. I mean, that's that American system of playoffs is, you're going to get these types of games. So we're getting there. Before we keep going, somebody asked, what do you think about Jorge Sanchez and Luis Rodriguez? Who's going to be a starter in Qatar 2022? And the reason why we have to answer this is because any of you answer my questions, I'm leaving the streaming and I'm following your account. We don't want him to come back. Sorry, Javier. There's a lot of stuff going on, but that's tough. I mean, that's so far ahead. Jorge Sanchez.
It's tough because I think in theory
they're going to start.
When I look at the ideal 11 for Tata, I'm not saying my own ideal 11, but when you look at the ideal 11 for Tata, like, it's pretty exciting for the most part when you look at most positions. When you see what can happen up top, when you look at the midfield, but then the one big question mark for me though is when I look at that right back position, because I feel like Mexico by now should have someone like a Jorge Sanchez or a Mozo, or maybe Vladimir Loroña, maybe a couple. You never know. Like, he's still a decent option. Like, that will be able to surpass Xhaka, and I felt like someone should have already surpassed him by now, but I feel like there's something there that clearly Tata liked about him. It's something that Tuca liked about him. There's something that Osorio liked about him, and I feel like Mexico should be ready to move past him. We should have a new younger option stepping in there, but I don't know. I would not be surprised if he's still Mexico's starting right back in 2022. And I'm just hoping that one of the younger guys surpasses him by then.
I actually think with Chaka, I think he's been consistent. That's the difference. A lot of people don't like him, and there's things, there's a lot of things.
Like his bald head, man. I think he's not a good-looking guy. Let's be honest. I think that's what it is. People just don't want him.
That could, I mean, that
honestly, like, they just think he looks like people are mean that way, man. Like, that guy's not a good-looking guy. This guy's a soccer player. Like, he looks like your typical Cholo typecasted from like Hollywood to be the Cholo in every movie. Like, it's anyway, sorry, I had to throw that in there. Like, people,
and then here comes Jorge Sanchez, with
it's like that's what I'm saying, man. Anyway, sorry.
But I'm with Cesar. I think it's one of the positions. I was actually worried on the central defender. I think little by little that it seems to have some options to replace Hector Moreno, and that's a good thing. Especially looking at that U23 roster, you can see that there's at least 2 or 3 of them. I don't know if Tiva Sepulveda will get to that point on me just personally, but I think Johan Vasquez is a good option. He has a little potential to move into that starting position. But on the right back, again, there's very few options coming out. To me, the most exciting at one point was Alan Mozo, but then he has up and downs, and I mean, who knows? Maybe he has some amazing Olympics and he ends up going to a different place and reshaping himself and coming into there, but. I honestly think that a lot of the comments on Chaka, or the problem with that people throw in Chaka, is that, and this is more of the sign of the scheme, like, because they push him so far forward. And I always said the same thing with Ponce in Chivas. Chivas fans gave Ponce a lot of crap for a lot of mistakes, and I'm like, well, he's trying to help you out forward. So yes, he's out of position. So if somebody else loses their mark, or if somebody else loses the ball, are you really expecting this guy to run 80 yards back and help you out? And usually the answer is like, well, but Alfonso Davies does it. And you're like,
Oh, yeah.
how many Alfonso Davies are in the world, man? Or Roberto Carlos.
Whatever
Or Capo.
it
It's like,
is. Ricardo Osorio did it. He did it well too.
but he usually played on the. For example, Ricardo Osorio was usually a center back when they played him on the, or at least under La Volpe. It was a 5. It was a 5.
Yeah, that's what it is. Everyone remembers a 5. Yeah, that's why you could do that.
So you can think that those things can happen here. It's tough, but I honestly, see Chaka still holding that position unless, again, one of the new younger guys decides to step up in the next year.
I'm fine with Chaka, man. He keeps going. All right. Sorry. All right. So there you go. Do not subscribe. All right, Javier, do not unsubscribe, and we'll do that. We'll see that. All right, continue with the other game. Cruz Azul, slowly. Nobody's talking about Cruz Azul. No pressure. Slowly going into this is their season to finally win a championship. We'll see where they're at. Defeated Toluca. I thought somehow Toluca was going to squeeze in a tie and just curse. That's it, and they're going to keep going forward. But no. But yeah, Cruz Azul doing what they need to be doing, and looking to be a final favorite.
Yeah, I mean, there is a good comeback for them, but also I think you got to give Toluca for also making that an entertaining series as well. And I think that once again, after watching this, I don't think top 12 is ideal for a playoff structure, but it's tough to argue against it when you have an entertaining series like that when you include Toluca. But yeah, credit to Cruz Azul, credit to obviously Gabasita with his goal and 2 assists, but also, I mean, shout out to Brian Angulo, who scored the first one for Cruz Azul and who's been such a clutch player for them recently. I mean, he was incredible for them in the CCL, and he's now he getting the start up top, with Gabasita. So he seems to be really, really clicking up there for them. So maybe those are the two that we'll see. But then again, maybe Reynoso will also mix it up in this first leg in the semifinal series. And I wouldn't be surprised if he were to do that because he has the options to do so and potentially rotate some of the players.
And I think with Cruz Azul it's always the same thing, right? Like, to me, they're never not a contender. And the problems with Cruz Azul have not come of them reaching the big game. The problem is winning the big game. They played, like 7 finals since the last time they lost it. So even by, for whatever reason, statistically, they should have won it already. And for whatever reason, they haven't. And again, like I see them very firm. The one thing that I might think it changed this time compared to others is that the coach they have in place, not only is he working, but he's of that generation who won the last title. So if there's somebody who break the curse and like all the things that will mean for the club to do it, it's definitely with somebody like that at the helm.
But then again, wouldn't it be so very Cruz Azul if they continue to do well, they make it to the final, and then they stumble? Like, that would be the most Cruz Azul thing again, right? Like, we give them praise. Cabecita is going to get a hat trick.
At that point. You kind of feel bad at that point, but you kind of want chaos to happen. So,
well, of course, it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
You got to get eliminated on the next. We'll see. We'll see that.
Can you imagine it's a Cruz Azul Puebla final? Puebla beats them.
36-year-old manager Nicolas Larcamon lifts the title.
The next, I thought it was an entertaining match and surprising to some, but I really, really like this Santos. And beating Monterrey, who, at the beginning of the season, Vasco Aguirre, they had, the players, Santos going through, and I'm picking him to win the whole thing.
Wow, okay.
So, it's just like I'm picking Santos. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Santos played well in that second. Like, I thought they should have had a penalty in that game. I think, of course, Monterrey might have invited too much pressure, but they're definitely an interesting team. They got a lot of exciting young talent. You got that late goal from Ronaldo Prieto, who was just subbed on minutes earlier. But yeah, no, I was very, very impressed by them. And I mean, yeah, you got to say that they got to be a title contender now. And especially after getting this win over Monterrey, I know people will have their questions over them. And, maybe it's going to take some more time for Aguirre to really work in his system. But no, credit to Santos, and credit to this team who could potentially, find a lot of success towards a potential title. We'll see. We'll see how they do in the semis, using a lot of young talent.
Yeah, I've always said that, and growing up watching Mexican soccer, being involved in Mexican soccer, and then later on, like knowing people. to me, Santos is a club that works the best in Mexico. If you really think about it, they're the most winning team in Mexico. And I'm not saying that because of the titles, but they exist since 1991 and they're consistently in the, like, there's very, very few times where they're not in Liguilla or most of the time, except for maybe a couple of years when Ludueña was there, or maybe when Jared, after the Jared Borghetti, Benjamin Galindo era, where they actually won one title and then they came back. They were actually considered something, but it's always quiet. The last title they won with Siboldi against Querétaro, nobody expected them to be there, but they're always there, and they work so well. It's a team that manages their finances very well. They're always bringing players. They're always bringing players from the under divisions. It's great to work with them as media. They're very accessible. Like, there's nothing not to like about Santos. It's just it's one of those teams that for whatever reason, like, people just overlook them all the time, and they're always here.
Yeah.
I mean, they're definitely the kind of team where if you were to try to guess, like, most seasons, like, who would be in the top 8, like, other than some of the obvious candidates, they'd probably be, I'm going to say probably for a casual fan, they'd probably be within that top 8 a surprising amount of times, because they are reliable. They are fairly consistent. And for the most part, I mean, it is pretty impressive to not only see how well run they are, but just that they, more often than not, they might put themselves in a situation like this where they're just a few games away from potentially lifting up a title. So yeah, it's definitely impressive. We'll see how they do in the semis.
And think about the players. Like, right now, who's the biggest star for Cruz Azul? Where everything is falling into? Where did he come from? Like, it's so they always have that one player that makes an impact, and because now it's Gorriarán, and Gorriarán might go. And then they'll find somebody else that nobody knows about, and then starts coming to the Mexican League and like la rompe. Like, it's always been the case, and they always find those players. They did it with Darwin Quintero, with Chucho Benitez, with El Pony Ruiz. Like, they always
remember Giannini, how random that was. We're like, who's this? Like, I don't know. And then he just and then he did incredibly. And then who knows where Giannini is now? Actually, to be perfectly honest, but like,
it's a team that does things really well, and I think from inside and out, from the organization. It's and I think you're going to see a lot more of Santos coming up in the next 5 to 10 years in all aspects of it, in that organization that's coming in. So it'll be interesting where the titles start coming in. They win something now, and then more investment, and it's that group. So
the only thing. Oh, go ahead.
And they always try to stay on top of things, like their intelligence group, or their, what I call it, their tactics, the tactics group, or the tactics team, the Inteligencia Deportiva in Santos right now. It's a group of really young guys that study a lot. I happen to know a couple of them. They just got a brand new sporting director that's going to start soon. If you haven't heard who it is, the announcement will be made soon, which is, again, somebody who knows the league very well and is very young. So they're always, again, they try to be fresh. They try to have fresh ideas. They don't fall into these big lakes that the rest of the league does, where it's always the same people doing the same things. They work very well, and that obviously pays off.
Yeah,
but we'll see how they do against Puebla, though. That's the thing. That's like, especially like, I don't want to like put the focus on just one player, because if I had to pick my top goalkeeper of the season, it would be Acevedo. To be him or Anthony Silva. I'm leaning towards Acevedo. But there's been something recently about him. He's had a couple mistakes, and maybe it's just every goalkeeper has a couple mistakes. It's normal, but it feels like he's had a couple of noteworthy ones recently, and I don't know. Maybe there'll be another against Puebla. Yeah, but we'll see.
Really quickly before we talk about the next matches, Puebla and Atlas, not the most entertaining match. I really was disappointing on Atlas this time. Pulling for for Atlas to go through, and just not an entertaining game. Puebla still at every point, it's like Puebla keeps surprising, and who knows, and it keeps going, right? As much as we're talking about Santos, Puebla could go through, when we're looking at that. So here to talk, about what's coming up next week. Santos Puebla, Cruz Azul Pachuca. La ida starts in miércoles, and then Cruz Azul Pachuca. Then obviously on Thursday, Puebla Santos, and then Saturday, and then Sunday. So let's chat. Who do we have? What do you think? I really don't think people can predict what could happen just because Cruz Azul is there. Like, this is not I felt like last season we knew, okay, yeah, it's got to be, on it. But I have this, like, this is going to be a wild semifinal.
I actually don't want to talk too much about who I'm picking and why, because Cesar is playing
I
is
was
against me
about
on the bracket.
I was about to say, you know what, Carlos, if you could tell me specifically the scoreline.
If
of
you
each
don't
game,
know,
each
it's good. If
scoreline.
you don't know, this is what happened on our Liguilla madness. It's good, where Paradero boys first time just he got eliminated because of the seating from Cesar because he won as a Liguilla champion with the. You see how they have the trophy right there, Cesar? Yeah, right there. There it is. There it is. Yep. Paradero boys gets eliminated because of the tie. Amy got eliminated by Mr. Hoyt. I mean, she was mad, man. She was like she tried that hard, and she even got the goals right from America. But Owen Diana, I with 8 points still got eliminated by Keith again, who did an amazing job. On our last leg, he copied everything I did. Like this guy's inside my head, and I was like, "All right, I'm gonna go for the tie just to be different." And I should have went for the Cruz Azul win, of course, but he got me. He beat me, and then Carlos Justic. This is very surprising because 11 points in this round, and also beating Adriana, who's always very tough. Adriana's like the Santos, they win, and she's always there, just like Carlos says. I'm like Leon. I win once in a while, and by getting
I was pretty happy with my scores because even though I didn't nail the Puebla one, it was a 1-goal differential, so technically I wasn't off. Cruz Azul won 3-1, so that was a 2-goal differential. So I was somewhere in the ballpark with those two. So I was actually really surprised at myself because I never do these things right.
It's actually funny. All of ours, I was 100% sure it was going to be like 1-1. Like I don't know why, but I saw that Santos. I'm like this. And I even sent Tom a message. I was like, Tom, don't worry, because he's over there. He's helping out and working with Santos and Atlas. And I was like, hey, Santos is going to go through. So, but yeah, look at all the right. 1-1 from Cesar, Carlos, you and Keith. Everyone's got that 1-1. Then obviously America winning. Everyone had Cruz Azul, and then yeah.
But yeah, but the
although
semis,
Cesar did have Atlas winning though, so
that's true. But obviously the semis should be pretty good. I'm excited about it. I think with Pachuca versus Cruz Azul, as I mentioned earlier, you look at this and you immediately think, oh, well, Cruz Azul, they're the number 1 seed. You have someone like Cabecita up top. But like I mentioned, one of the themes from the last few weeks is you can't take Pachuca lightly. You just 100% can't take them lightly. We've seen, Ismael Sosa has been, finding a good amount of form with them. You get the occasional goal from Roberto de la Rosa. Oscar Murillo has been one of the top defenders again. You have, young options like Eric Aguirre and Eric Sanchez. And I don't know, I think it's going to be a surprisingly close one. And I'm going to be interested to see which starters Reynoso goes with for Cruz Azul in that first leg. Because we've seen sometimes those midweek games that he'll mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, and hopefully he learned from that mistake. I still think it's going to be a tight game. We saw with Pachuca coming in. They've been doing really well at home, at least on the past 2-3 games. So they have to be careful with that. I said Santos need to assert their dominance with an international title, though, which is true.
Yeah.
But you know what happened? I think that the problem there is that the teams that have been able to manage that, because when you see, again, Santos does the job very well and they're spending and everything, but I don't think they build rosters that can compete in several tournaments at a time.
It's true.
That's something that Tigres and Monterrey have been able to be a little more leisure about, it. The same with America, and that's why those are teams that have been able to dominate here and there. Because even the time that Chivas won, and this is something that people were talking about it this week, when Almeida got that team dismantled a little bit, he was like, I'm going to forget about the league and concentrate on CONCACAF because I don't have the team to do this. And I think Santos, most of the time, that's what happens. Is like once you have to split them between Copa Champions and the league, it's just, they don't have enough firepower there.
It'll be interesting for Santos looking up in that other matchup, going up against Puebla, because I am a little worried about Puebla. It seems like there's been a sudden lack of goal scoring. Maybe it's just because there was something a little off about Ormeño, who was benched recently for them, but that he was brought back early on the first half as a sub. But still, there's something about them in a recent game where they just weren't creating enough goal scoring opportunities. And you saw a recent game.
Didn't that have to do also with a little bit of how Atlas played? What do you think?
Yeah, but it was still, but like even looking beyond that game, though, I feel like once again you kind of recognize that maybe there's a little bit too much of reliance on Anthony Silva and net. Like I'm just a little worried about that with them. And when you look at some of the recent games, not just that one, that they just haven't had enough goal scoring opportunities. I don't know. Maybe I'm just I'm not like analyzing this correctly, but it just seems like Puebla within the last few weeks just haven't looked like the Puebla that I've seen earlier this season, and I'm a little worried about that. But you never know. I mean, especially with someone like them who still, regardless of how they've looked the last few weeks, they were number 3, overall in the regular season. And in the same way that you can't take Pachuca lightly over the last few weeks, you can't take Puebla lightly at all in 2021.
And remember that Pumas made it like that to the final last
Yeah.
season. I mean, to me it's a very similar case. And same, like the gas started falling off a little bit, but they still have enough gas to make it to the final. Obviously, with that crazy game against Cruz Azul in between.
It was true.
But they had a horrible first leg. Like that's another thing. Like everybody remembers that 4-0, but Pumas lost 4-0 that first leg.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So they had a horrible showing, and in this case, the same thing could happen with Puebla. They could have a horrible game on this first leg and tie 0-0, and then end up winning 2-1 the second leg, and then make it to the final. So
that's why I'm saying it's going to be a crazy, crazy, crazy week. I can give my prediction. So, because you guys are facing each other, you don't want to give. Maybe this will be like a psychological thing. Like I'm saying who this is. Take a picture. Yeah, no. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Santos and Cruz Azul. So they go through somehow.
But for the final, that's making it through. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Santos, Cruz Azul make it to the final. Wait, how does Pachuca have like 12 stars? Oh.
All their international tournament on the bottom.
Got it.
I'm gonna say so. Carlos, take notes. Pachuca wins 5-11 in the first leg.
So how do they win 5-11?
Santos 52-25 against Puebla. In the first
are you talking about the Liga MX? Like you start watching that?
Oh man, poor girl from Mazatlan. What a bunch of jerks.
I know, right? Yeah.
Put her in that anyway.
I can say that because if I had played, it would have been the same thing. So.
Oh, I'm horrible. It would have been like people beat me like 21-0 too. I'm horrible at it.
I can invite those gamers to meet me at the field, though.
There you go. Oh, we saw those kicks. By the way, everyone keeps talking about Carlos being part of their team when we all face each other. I'm pretty sure he's part of the Mexican. We already claimed him. Sorry. And you have nothing to say, Carlos. But I wanted to add Amy. I don't know. We were talking smack about America, and she was like, "Let me in," but then she said,
"Let me in" like 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, it's too late now. What are you embarrassing me for?
It was like 20 minutes ago.
Sorry, I forgot. There's chats, and then there's the other chat. There's a private chat that I don't see.
I try to help you as much as I can.
He let the fire.
And then I get the Amy text.
I'm like, I DM'd him on Instagram, DM'd him on Twitter.
It wasn't until I got the DM on Instagram because I have my notifications on that I was like, oh wait, someone really needs me. Oh, Amy said she needs to be on. Amy, all right, go ahead.
I'm so mad. I'm so mad for so many reasons. One, I was the only person in that bracket to put America scoring the 4 goals. I was like, I do believe, but it was terrible. No, it's like Carlos said and what everybody said. Like,
but 4-0, Amy. You didn't think Pachuca scored 0?
They still scored the 4 goals. The point is they scored the 4 goals. I was right, but the thing is like everybody is saying, like they blew it in that first game. Like it was done as soon as that first game was over because you brought the risk of them scoring 1 goal. Like I had it 4-0 because that's it. You have to score the 4 goals and not let yourself concede. And then they messed up. Although I will say, I don't understand. The Eagle Eye podcast is going to have a podcast tomorrow, but they put out like a little like poll, like see what you grade Solari's first season, and people were putting Fs. It's one thing to be upset. It's another thing to think that it's a full blown like.
Come on. Well, that's the issue with sometimes with America expectations is that you win the title or it's a fracaso. That's how some fans feel.
It's a fracaso. They couldn't make it to the semifinal.
But in this case, like the first, I was telling you guys in the chat, the way the first leg was going, that first leg, I was like, man, if this is the way that they're going to go out, like, then if people have a right to be upset because it's just terrible. It's a terrible performance. You've made it second place the entire time. So that
I've come to talk with you again.
I'm not even that
Because
upset.
a vision softly
Do we have the rights to this? Are we gonna
This
get
is
blocked
wh-
for this?
is
Oh,
this-
that's right. We don't have the rights to
That's
Don't take us
that's
out.
why you brought me into the chat. I'm gone. I'm leaving. Never mind. You know what? I'm not doing the rundown anymore. That's it.
No. Do the rundown.
Yeah. I want to see.
Sorry.
No, the thing is, if the first leg had gone the way that it was, like if the second leg went the way the first leg did, then you have a right to kind of like what's going on with Solari with second place, all of a sudden just can't perform. Where's that echo?
There's a more. Go.
Oh, anyway, point is, I don't think it was a bad season, but he has to work on that defense. Also, Bruno Valdez can meet me in the octagon because I'm mad at him forever.
Bonito Coronel Rich saying, is Amy crying about the Águilas again? Chillona. Boom.
So Wiso brings me in to play that ridiculous song, and Coronel just comes into the chat to just.
Look, I gotta say something.
I
Yesterday,
didn't realize that Chivas made the quarterfinals. I'm so sorry.
Yesterday
I
on
missed
another
that
chat,
notification. I'm so
on another
sorry.
chat, we're going over, but I gotta tell you, this was probably the funniest comment in like rivalry history. All of a sudden, I'm in a chat with Mr. Rich because we're doing some stuff for PBA and stuff like that. And all of a sudden, in this chat where there's Americanistas there, Rich is in there, I see this. Hey, everybody, how's it going? How's your night going? Like a really odd message, and then it's deleted. And I'm like, all right, I guess Rich, on a WhatsApp message, you sometimes make that mistake. And then it says, perdón por eliminar el mensaje como el América fue eliminado. like, sorry I erased that message like America got erased from the Liguilla. I was dying laughing.
That's like a week-old joke, though, right? They did that for Chivas when they
Did
got
he really?
eliminated. Yeah, because Chivas got eliminated way
Oh,
earlier than everybody else.
I haven't
So-
heard that bit.
Did they get eliminated?
I
didn't
haven't
even make
heard
it.
that. Anyway, so then the whole chat went off about America and Chivas, and I was like, oh, this is why I'm not in chat with America and Chivas fans because they take over. This is like work stuff. And anyway.
Point
So we'll see
is,
what's in.
Coronel, go watch Chivas family qualify for the final. See, there's something that you guys can all cheer about. So
There it
they're
is.
up right now.
There it is.
1-0.
All right.
Nice.
All right. We forgot MLS. We forgot.
Cheech scored.
Cheech scored and Carlos Velas. It's like Carlos Velas at the
Yeah,
end.
I mean, they got it like
scoring.
they got a. It's
Jürgen Dapp doing
fairly
amazing TikToks.
like Liga MX. It's not too difficult to get into the MLS playoffs. So if Vela has early season injuries, I understand if Bob Bradley wants to take his time and not be starting him immediately. So he only got I think it was 20, 30 something minutes over the weekend for LAFC. So not too surprised by that. But yeah.
Well, we have Alan Pulido and Sporting Kansas City visiting
right.
the Bay
That's
Area this weekend, and we'll see how that goes because the Quakes look really well on the game on the last weekend. Then they had to play the Seattle Sounders, which to me they're the best team in the West right now. It was I think it was a good game overall, even though they lost. And then having a third game 2 days after, I don't think the Quakes have the firepower to sustain that. So they had a poor showing against Portland, and everybody was going crazy. And I was like, it's 3 games in a week. Like that's not physically possible. You give them a break. Now, if they look horrible against Sporting Kansas City, then there's a whole different conversation, your expectations towards the season. Because if you have bad showings against Sporting Kansas City, against Portland, and against Seattle, then it shows that you're not a contender. But we'll see.
Is that going to be a record of most Mexicans in a MLS match?
No, there's probably something in
when the Cali Clásico comes around, maybe.
Yeah.
Right? Because when the Cali Clásico comes around, you have Efrain, you have Jonathan, you have Chicharo, and then
That's what I'm saying. Well, I guess you're right. Yeah. No, I guess you're right. Yeah.
Maybe I'd I'm only thinking
all of them on the field. The most Mexicans play in MLS. That's why I'm like, it's got to come up around with.
It has to be the Galaxy Quakes if all the Mexicans.
Yeah.
And if you're are we including Mexican Americans too? Because technically that'd be Cade Cowell too, and then right? Yeah.
Are you jumping on that train too? You wanna? I've been trying to recruit him. I've been trying to make calls to the federation, like, hey, U20. Do you know there's a U17 over here that's it's massive. He's like 6'1" and like all muscle. Are you sure you don't want him?
I'm waiting for Cade Cowell to have another good game and to put out like a semi-serious tweet saying that, like, you know what, he could potentially be a good striker for Chivas.
Well, you know
Like,
here's the thing. Here's the thing with Cade Cowell, and I'm really excited. I love the kid. I think he's fantastic. Obviously, physically, you know, he's a specimen. He's disgustingly fast and disgustingly strong. But he has a lot of the things that Uriel Antuna has.
Mm.
When you have a team that falls back, even though he's that strong, he just can't break that defense. He's been doing well on teams that come in pressure. They leave space behind. You find him in space, and then you can't catch him. So I think that's something that he still needs to work on. And I always go with what Almeida said that first week when, you know, he got Player of the Week and everybody was crazy about him. It was like, he's probably the player that jumps the best, but he's the one that heads the worst. So, but like I said, like he said, like that's why, you know, it's like I'm not paying attention to what people are saying outside. It's little by little because he's 17 years old and there's a lot that he still needs to learn.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Make those calls to the federation.
But if the U20 wants it, I mean, I'm okay with that.
Writing his name now, finding out what agent he has. We'll try to get him. All right. Well, we went way over. Thank you to all your messages. Lots of different messages. 8 people still hanging on. If you're listening to us on the podcast on Apple Podcast or on Spotify, thank you very much. We'll continue to have these live shows. Again, lots and lots of happening coming up starting next week with so many games that are happening. So we'll see. All right. Thanks again for production. Amy doing an amazing job. She left mad at me because I brought her on towards late, so I apologize.
Understandably so.
Carlos, un placer as always. Thank you for coming on. Your home is here at any time. Cesar, glad you got the second vaccine. And we'll see what happens in the Mexican soccer show, and we'll see if Cruz Azul can keep going. It's what everyone's kind of looking at. So we'll see. This is why. Hello, this is one for my Cruz Azul. Roberto Gonzalez is saying that. All right, after all, see you all later. Hasta la próxima.